So Dave and John, I mean,
Yeah.
they've hit a home run with, I feel like all of these live action things.
Yes.
Ahsoka, they're taking it
Yeah.
to a new level.
I love Dave Filoni. I love Jon Favreau. I worked with them from the very first day. And it's such a treat to be on a set with them or even just sitting in chairs talking about like, what would a Jedi do in this situation?
What's going on, Star Wars fans?
Hello there.
I'm super psyched to bring to you guys the second part of this interview with Chris Bartlett. Man, I was so excited about the last interview. He does such a good job explaining everything. He's such a fan of the universe, which is really cool. So let's get to that second part of his interview and finish this up. I'm super excited. Here we go. Well, and again, it's not like you're one person all the time. You're these different ones. So you have to come
Yeah.
up with different movements and head nods and and things like that, which I think is really great. Um,
Well, thanks. Yeah, that like a typical protocol droid would be very appropriate, very stiff and tight, well oiled, or maybe a bounty hunter would be a cold, calculating, killing machine. So would move very different, and his mannerisms and attitude would be very different. Most of them feel very superior to humans, and they'll tell you that.
sure.
And so that's always fun whether they're nice about it or they're a jerk about it.
Right.
Those are yeah. But yeah, I love coming up with different. I do all the lines that I get in the script are all in English. So
Okay.
whether they replace it with an alien voice or language, I mean, either way, I'm just like Peter Mayhew did with his character. He would he would do all the lines in English. And so I'm coming up with different voices for these characters. My bounty hunter,
Right.
he, his lines, one of them were, despite recent modifications, this ship is still quite a mess. I played it like a British Cockney kind of character, gravelly. I made sure I didn't drink water before any of my
Oh
lines, so
wow.
I would have this like gravelly kind of sound that was really dry and low. And and I had a microphone and a speaker in the suit, so it came across really robotic. And whether they and then Richard Iowati, the actor, they got to do the finished voice sounded very much we sounded very similar, and that was great. um but I am coming up with voices, mannerisms, and all these different character traits that I like. Oh, I know that one did this, so this one I'm going to do something different.
Right. Well, and a lot of these are newer characters coming out.
Mhm.
The gold guy, yeah, he's been around for a while.
Yeah.
And but these other newer ones, so it's sort of, I guess you get like a little bit of a free go at it. I'm sure they have some things that they want you to stay in the lines
Mhm.
with, but again,
Yeah.
it's like you said, hey, this one did this movement over here or said this type of thing, where now I'm going to do this, where maybe I'm going to be a little bit faster or slower
Yeah.
when I'm moving.
Yeah, so for Goldenrod, I have a lot of reference, to match. I'm just a second-rate impersonator. Anthony Daniels is the real deal. But with this character, I was looking at the design, and his head looks very much like a praying mantis. Like these big bug eyes and
Hmm.
these mandibles. Here that are very mechanical and that. So I had gone out and researched before filming. I'd watched a whole bunch of video on insects and especially praying mantis, um, and then I ended up making the motions like him because the praying mantis is very creepy. The head moves separately and very tactically from the body, and and so I tried to make him like that, make him a little snappy, but everything is its own thing.
Right.
There's not like this organic going through everything. It's the head. Yeah. Anyway, so that's how I prepared for that one. But then other ones, I did let's see, the droid that I referenced before in the speeder chase, uh he was all super grimy, oily and greasy and dirty and gritty, and so I played him as like his joints were all very old and loose, probably bolts, or so I was like, whoa, like that.
Right.
um and the whole joke was he was being, yeah, caught in traffic, so that was his, that's how I played him. But others, are very, like I said, very well calibrated, and very, very tight and clean in their motion.
Right. Well, and like
So
the waiter or the bartender or the teacher, it's just different things,
yeah.
moving around. And again, I
Well,
think you do a great job with that.
oh, thanks. Well, even the teacher, I play the teacher as very calming, like the motion, as the gold guy is very, very excitable, and he's always in adventures that are he's not really prepared for.
Right.
But the teacher, is in a room of students, and you want her to be very calm, but she also, moves similar to the gold guy,
Sure.
but not like a cold, calculating killer, but calm, and that's how I played that. So if you go back and watch that, you'll see she's more calm than maybe another protocol droid you're familiar
Yeah. Now, did
with.
you, and I know you mentioned his name, so hopefully I can. Did you get to
Yeah.
speak with Anthony Daniels and talk to him about that character, and I guess maybe tell us why he's not doing that and you're sort of moving into that spot, which I think is great. I mean, obviously we want to keep this universe going, just like, you know, Peter Mayhew has passed away, and I can't
Hmm.
think of the young man's name that plays him now. Just a
Eunice Suotomo
yes.
is, yeah.
And he's doing a great job with that, and I think you're doing a great job bringing this character and continuing
Oh,
on.
thank you, Ron. Uh, Thankfully, Anthony Daniels is very active, and continues, with this character. So there's no like moving in or anything like that. He's very active, and we'll, he's active in the convention circuit, and so
Oh yeah.
fans have a great chance to meet him and have him sign things, and that's always great. So I think it's so fun to, when I've talked to him in person, to, if we're working something out, I without getting into too much details, working out like timing of things, and how he would do something, how certain motions work, and even to the voice. We worked on several things together, sometimes not in the same country,
Right.
but sometimes in person. And so, you know, George George Lucas and Anthony Daniels, with the help of sculptress Liz Moore, really created that character, and that is, I mean, obviously created that character, and put so much life into that. Like I said, all I'm doing is impersonating a master's work. That's all. But we do love these characters, and we'd love for these characters to continue on, as long as possible. And so that's all I'm Ron. I'm just answering the phone call.
Right.
Okay, I'm not like campaigning to do any of this or that, any of that. They just called me, and
Right.
so we work together to extend the life of this character. Yeah,
But you're
that's
doing a good enough job to get that return phone call, which I think is cool.
thanks, Ron.
You know, so I think
Thanks.
that's really really neat. So the new Ahsoka series, you have a couple parts in that,
Yeah, I play
correct?
four characters. Surprise, they're droids,
Yep.
and one of them is a red droid who, well, sorry, the very first one is a blue one who lets the main character or the characters in the scene know that a ship is approaching, and she's a
Correct.
beautiful blue, dark blue, navy blue, and and then there's also red a red droid who references assassin droids, and notices that there's something going on that that the other character in the scene said wasn't happening. So I'm revealing both times. I'm revealing things, and then the other one that doesn't. So both of them have plenty to say, and one that doesn't have anything to say but is present is an RA7 droid, which is old school Death Star droid,
Right.
and it's silver. And I played that one as a security camera. Like that was the direction
Okay.
I got. Like before I was playing it, like a typical protocol droid, and then the director gave me direction to play it like a security camera. So he was just very slow and paying attention to what's happening, and
Right.
looking back and forth. But that's out on the landing platform in episode 1, and then the scene
So,
goes into the ship, and then I'm in the ship too.
right. Because
So,
there's a navigation droid, RA7,
uh-huh.
and C1D1,
Yeah,
and then the white droid,
yeah,
the home one, or
home one,
yeah,
yeah, that was white with blue eyes,
yeah,
yeah, and that one was more part of the um, environment to establish that there's droids on the ship, and
right.
they're that one didn't have anything to say, but it was cool to be featured in that hallway of a really iconic environment from uh, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I think is awesome about the, whether it's Mandalorian or Obi-Wan, which you've been in as well.
Mhm.
In Ahsoka, where man, these Easter eggs are these little things that come together in the universe. For me, that's my favorite part, to
Yeah.
see, when
Oh,
we
that's that guy. Or,
yeah,
oh, this is that ship. Yeah.
exactly,
I'll tell
from
you, yeah, when I on that day when I walked into set, I was going, I've seen this before. Where are we? This is the ship from Return of the Jedi. Um, and I wanted to be in there, and so I just went in and stood in the set in the costume with a helmet on and everything, just stood in there like, I belong here. I don't have a scene in here, but I belong here. So, and then they said, oh, Jon Favreau goes, oh, Chris, there's only holograms in here. There's not going to be any people in here. I was like, I'm not a people.
that's right.
So anyway, that was the scene where there's like 4 or 5 holograms that are surrounding the table. So they didn't want to block or have anything, drawing focus away from those characters. So of
Yeah.
course, then I had
So,
to leave, but I still got to hang out in there. That's fun.
oh, absolutely. So, since you said his name, so Dave and John, I mean,
Yeah.
they have just again, they've hit a home run with, I feel like, all of these live action things. In
Yes. I
Ahsoka,
love,
they're taking it
yeah.
to a new level.
I love Dave Filoni. I love Jon Favreau. I worked with them from the very first day. And it's such a treat to be on a set with them, or even just sitting in chairs talking about like what would a Jedi do in this situation, or John giving, you know, here's how it typically works. We're all gathered here today. We're going to be shooting this scene, and maybe you've heard the story, but there's a there was a scene where our favorite little green
Mm-hmm.
character,
Yeah.
he's being fitted with a mechanical suit, right? So he could be
Yep.
walking around, and we were gathering that morning. We had the props, and we were in the set in the office there with the light table and everything, and Jon Favreau comes in the morning and he goes, like when your dad taught you how to ride a bike, that feeling you had of like, oh, this is scary, but then once you started pedaling and you got it going and you were doing it under your own power, how excited you were. But also think about how your dad was nervous that or excited that you're going to learn this new skill, but then also a little bit nervous because you could wreck and get hurt, and then you'd be sad and injured. But you would also have this freedom that you could ride anywhere you wanted. And he said that's what we're filming today. And we're like, oh, okay, we could totally relate to that. Like that
That's
makes
awesome.
sense. So we understood the silver shiny guy, we understood the little green guy, and we
Right.
understood the other characters in the scene, and like Carl Weathers' character, and
Yeah.
uh, well, I can say Pedro's character and Carl's character. So that was it's so fun to talk to with or work with a storyteller like John and Dave. I mean, they're both there. Um, John feels like he's kind of like gives you like a high level of what we're doing today
Right. Right.
without necessarily all the details, and he lets you do the details. Dave is more about the story thread and the encyclopedia of
Right.
this galaxy. You know, when he just starts talking about alien voices and would audiences want to read subtitles of alien voices, you know, and I'm just like making up voices like,
Right.
you know, the ferryman, where I was like, "Oh, this speeder is brand new. It just arrived on the Spinwood freighter." And you know, it's the goggle snout character.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and Dave was like, "Oh, that's good." Or John goes, "Oh, that's good. Let's cartoon that down a little bit." And then Dave goes, "I wonder if he would speak a alien language like in A New Hope, or would audiences be bugged to read subtitles and stuff?" And I'm like, "This is a cool conversation, you know, like that
Absolutely.
that this is really how they think and what goes through their minds, not only being true to this galaxy, but also, uh, you know, telling the story in a way that fans would be not only engaged with, but also like you just said, you know, like, oh, that's that guy. He speaks like that, you know, familiar but new."
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Well, and like I said, a minute ago, it's just the two of them, and obviously Dave with his relationship with George, is sort of able to bring this and continue it to go on, which I think is really neat. Like you were saying, you saw it when you were 7, and
Mhm.
I saw it when I was 10, and at least for me, it feels like I'm gonna have Star Wars for my whole life, which is
Yeah.
which is pretty cool, because
But
if
back
they
then,
continue to do all this stuff, it's just going more
right.
and more and more, and it's pretty cool.
So are you saying in 1977 you were 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So wow, you do not look like you're 3 years older than me. I would have guessed that. I would have yeah, guess you're younger than me. But the thing is, when we saw it in the theaters, there was no promise of future
Right.
stories in this galaxy. It was just that is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I mean, I was 7, so I
Right.
didn't have like a
Right.
huge library of amazing things I'd seen, but but I just wanted more.
Oh my
And
gosh, yeah.
so by the time I was 13, when you would have been what, 15 or 16, um, when Jedi came out, I was like, I want this to continue forever, and I want to be in this somehow. I want to work with these people that when I saw the making of these films, it was a documentary on television,
Yeah.
and I was 13. You get to see all the behind the scenes stuff, and it didn't ruin anything for it. For me, it made it more magical that real people can make these things that feel so magic and fantastic. Um, I want to be one of those people when I grow up.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and again, I think it's really neat because, like you were talking about earlier, I did the same thing. We were out, playing Han Solo and Chewie, and somebody was
Yeah.
Luke, running
Uh-huh.
around, and doing things, which was neat. Because again, for me, like you said, at that time, at 10 years old, that was the most incredible thing I ever saw. And what's
Mhm.
cool for me as a fan, I've seen every movie opening day in the theater since then,
Wow.
which is pretty
Opening
cool.
day. That's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, so and so
Yeah.
now I make it, that's just my thing when the new ones come out, which is cool. And again,
And did you have the figure? Did you get the figures as a kid and everything
oh
too?
yeah, yep. And
Now, did you
I still have some.
did you age out at a certain point?
I did for a little bit. I did for a little
Mhm.
bit, and then once once the prequels came back in for me,
Yeah.
I was old enough. I had a job, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm
That's
getting
good.
back into this,
Yeah.
and I was able to, obviously add on to this because I had, 70s and 80s stuff that I still have.
Yeah.
Nothing in the boxes or anything, but and which is neat. And then it became sort of a bit of an obsession for me, and then
Really?
as we
I can
go to
tell.
these celebrations and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just such a cool universe. And again, everybody, when I've gone to celebration or chatting with people like yourself that are immersed in the world or are actors or actresses, everybody just has a passion for it. Everybody's there, nobody says anything. I mean, yes, some people say some negative things, but again, it's just such a great universe, and George has brought that to all of us. The good, the bad, the evil, the beautiful, the ugly. And
Yeah.
and it's just in this one big universe, and there's so many things. It's so big that look at all the other movies or TV shows that reference characters or lines or
Right.
something from Star Wars is
Yeah.
in so much stuff. It's pretty
Yes,
awesome, I think.
exactly. Yeah, it was so impactful to us as kids. And then when we got old enough to make, our own shows or films, we start referencing those things. But there's even films that are coming out now that look like they could be in that universe, that are made by people who were kids and grew up with it and now want to make their own, even if it's not an official story in the canon universe. It's either maybe they're fan films or maybe
Yeah,
they're other films that feel like they're in this genre. So anyway, I
there
just
are.
think
There's
that's
it's just
really
so
cool.
big, and some of them fan
Yeah.
films are really cool. I mean, they do a
Yeah.
good job, with the technology we have today. I mean, shoot,
Yeah.
you can film it on your iPhone if you want
I
nowadays,
know.
for the most
You know
part, which is
what?
crazy.
That's a great point, Ron. Way more than we did when we were kids. Is we have the opportunity to make our own films, on because you have a whole um, practical film suite in your phone now.
Yeah,
And so really what it comes down to is a story, good stories, because
yeah,
you can have great costumes. And I say this when I go out to conventions, talk on panels, and meet with fans that have built their costumes. You can have a great costume and not have a story, and it not be just having a costume isn't enough, is what I'm saying. On the other hand, not having a perfect costume, maybe you don't have every detail on there, maybe not everything is lined up exactly right, maybe you're
right.
missing this button back here, whatever. But if you have a story, that that covers a lot of blemishes on a costume. And if you have a person who's playing a character within that costume and they're doing a great job as a performer, it doesn't matter if the costume isn't perfect. It doesn't matter if the environment around it is perfect. It's just really cool to see how a good story and a good performer can blur those blemishes, that aren't perfect. I think a lot of times as fans we focus on like making the costume perfect, you know,
Right.
and I know I did, and something someone at ILM said to me one time, because I was pushing. This is years and years ago. I was pressing for specific measurements of a specific costume. Like, can you get me the measurements of this thing? And they said, just make it look good on you. And I was like, oh, I come from this purist mentality of no, it has to be exactly correct to the actual measurements.
Right.
Well, but what if it doesn't look right on you? Oh, then are you going to be upset? No, make it look good on you, and then you will, as a performer, will make. You don't want your performance to be overshadowed by, oh, it looks like it's too small on you, or it looks like it's too big on you. You know what I mean?
Right, because you were
So
going for
so
those exact measurements, and if you maybe
yeah,
shrunk it down a little bit, it looks better
right.
on you now.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was great advice. And another illustration of that was one time I was coming out of Star Wars Celebration, and there's a little like 9 or 10 year old kid who was wearing this costume,
Right.
and he was walking down the sidewalk there, and I think it was in Anaheim, right where it was last time, and he was walking to the Uber area, like his parents were trailing behind him. But he was walking with the helmet on and cradling the blaster, just like this guy does.
Yeah.
And he was walking, and I just like he just had the air of this bounty hunter about him. And I just said, "Looking good, Boba." And he turned to me and just nodded like this, like that. And I was like, "That's him.
Yes.
That's that character you did." Yes, you're a 10-year-old, but for a moment there, you felt like the real thing. It was just so great. So I would really love to communicate that as much as I could to fans. It's like, just, try to play the character more than you try to get the costume perfect,
Yes.
And when you're making a fan film, have a story.
Yep.
It's not enough to just have a couple of guys with laser swords in the forest fighting and then
Right.
go, boom, that's it.
Right, we're done.
It's not enough. But yeah, having a story, even if you retold an old story from another, like if you took King Arthur and switched it around to be in
Star Wars
another,
characters, right?
exactly,
Whatever.
or maybe
Yeah.
you took some other story. And just to start, because maybe if you're not a writer, but maybe you're familiar with other stories, that's a good place to start.
Yeah. And I think that's a great explanation because, again, sometimes when I've been to Celebration, I mean, some of these costumes are, like you said, just down to the T. They're so meticulous, but then when they're walking around or they're doing something, it just doesn't,
Yeah,
it doesn't
it looks like a
portray.
guy or a girl in a costume, right?
Right. Right. It's a
Oh
really good
no.
costume, but yeah,
Yes.
if you're going to come to a celebration with that costume on, you got to be
Yes.
in character too, which,
Come with the
yeah,
energy of that character. And if that character is an authority figure of some kind, or he's a bounty hunter or something, like, be scanning the crowd for suspicious,
exactly.
characters, or, like, because when you see it go by as a fan, when you see it go by, you're like, gosh, he's him,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
Anyway,
That's
I,
awesome.
I, but some people, that's not their thing. Some people, they just want to go and be in the costume. That's fine too. They're
Right.
having fun. It's
Yeah.
cool too.
And like I said, they're
Um,
great. Some of them are freaking,
yeah,
it looks like they just walked off the set,
yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, so what I like to do at these conventions is I go around, and when I see someone in a costume from this galaxy, I will go up to them and give them just a tiny bit of direction, like, hey, I want to do a character video of you as the character, not just
In a
Jim
costume.
in a
Right.
costume. And so I'll say, like, I want you to turn around and draw your weapon, and point it at the, or maybe there's three of you, and I'll get down low, like on their feet, and I said, I just want you to walk with purpose, like you're walking to the hangar, you're going to the ship, just the three of you, just go. And so I'll film them down at their feet, and then I'll go up, as they're walking by, and then I say, cut, and then I show them the video, and I say, look how great you guys look when you have purpose and you have energy of that character. And they're like, oh wow, okay, I it just takes a little bit, actually, to because the costume, does about half of it, and then you do
Right.
the rest. It's really, anyway, that's just, I'm just having fun at these conventions with, and that's why I always say, please, if you got a costume, come in costume. I'd love to see it.
That's awesome. Well, and I think that's so cool that you do that and you talk to these people and let them know, hey, do this or do that. Because again, if that was me, I'd be like, oh my God, you know what Chris Bartlett just told me, because again,
Well,
we do look up to those characters. And like I said, we want to be you, and we live vicariously through people like yourself
uh,
that are able to do this stuff, and we have that passion, which is pretty
yeah.
cool.
Now, Ron, do you have a costume?
I used to have a nice Darth Vader one, but I do
Oh,
not.
how
But I
tall are
do.
you? Are you
I'm six
tall?
one, so I
Yeah.
had I had some big thick shoes or
Yes.
boots on as well. But
Yeah.
I did get rid of that. But now I
Oh,
just go as a fan and
great.
buy more stuff. But
Great.
um,
Yeah, great.
so I'm
Yeah,
gonna hold you for a sec.
the first time I ever got a feeling for that was in North Carolina. There's a sand dune range at Jockey's Ridge, North Carolina, and a bunch of us in sand trooper gear So we're all dirty. We're stormtroopers. We're all dirty. We have the big backpacks and the big weapons and stuff. And we were just like marching across the sand dune out there, and one of our buddies was filming us, and people ran up to the set, that ran up to the sand dune, and they were like, "Is this for Star Wars? Is this what are you filming for the next movie?" And that was the first time I felt like, oh, that's cool, because they saw what we were doing and the attitude and the energy we had in the costumes, where we were playing characters, and it made people think it was the real thing. And not that I ever would claim that I am something I'm not,
Right.
but in the fun moment of acting, that was really cool feeling. So that you made people feel like this is the real thing,
Right.
and so that's what I try to do as with fans at conventions.
That's pretty cool. Oh, hey. Sorry, I was just messing around. So that was the second of 3 of our Chris Bartlett interview. I think it's pretty cool. He's a great guy, great interview. I think his stories are really cool. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. We will have part 3 of his interview next week. So please stick around and check that out next week. Hit the like and the subscribe button, please, if you haven't already. And, you'll get some information for the next episode that comes out each week that we're going to be doing. So, again, it'll be out next week, the 3rd and final episode of Chris Bartlett's interview. And if you're in Bangor, Maine this weekend, October 13th through the 15th, Chris will be at the Bangor Comic and Toy Con. A couple weeks after that, he will be in Lebanon, Tennessee, which is right near Nashville, at the Music City Multicon, October 27th to 29th, and then Rhode Island Comic Con, November 3rd through the 5th. So again, hit those like and subscribe buttons. Appreciate you guys listening to this. And until next time, may the Force be with you, and we'll see you on the next Star Wars Jedi Chat.